Meet Arabica. Most of the world's coffee comes from this bean, from Starbucks to specialty roasters. But climate change is putting its future at risk, and it's left us scrambling for an alternative.
I'm concerned, I'm worried. So if you're not looking into that, you're not doing a real job.
The answer could come from a bean that's been long forgotten. By most of us anyway.
This way.
Henrique Sloper runs a farm best known for a sought-after coffee that's sourced from a rare bird's poop.
You have to go by hand and do this.
And sells for thousands of dollars per kilo.
People have no idea how much of shit that I pick every day.
But his bread and butter is the acres and acres of coffee plants that will eventually bear traditional Arabica beans. It's also what keeps him up at night.
So look at the rain, what the rain did in one night. 150 millimeters in 2 hours. That ripped apart part of the plantation. I lost 5,000 trees.
By some measures, half of the world's coffee growing regions will no longer be suitable for production by 2050. And Brazil, which produces about a third of our coffee, will be one of the hardest hit.
This is all about weather change. We've got flowers and green coffee on the same branch, and coffee ready to pick. I mean, the trees don't know what to do.
Here in the state of Espírito Santo, farmers are trying a few things to soften the impact of climate change on their production. Like planting trees that act as a buffer from intense heat and storms, and moving Arabica crops to higher altitudes.
Há 50 anos atrás, existia uma lavoura aqui nessa região, mas ela não era produtiva, por conta de que a temperatura era mais baixa. E agora, com essas mudanças climáticas, a gente vê uma lavoura super produtiva, ela tem uma lavoura saudável.
But high altitude areas will eventually run out. And planting trees amongst crops means harvests have to be done by hand, not with machines, driving up costs. Other farmers are trying something a bit more drastic, switching species altogether. Meet Robusta, the world's second most popular coffee. It's where most instant coffee comes from, and while some connoisseurs might turn their nose up at its bitterness, the plant can thrive at temperatures around 2 to 3 degrees Celsius higher than Arabica. Because of this, it's being produced more and more in Brazil. But some think we need an even more rugged plant that's neither Robusta nor Arabica.
It's not going to be an infinite solution. We have to do something about the root causes of climate change. But looking at the projections and looking what we might be able to achieve with changing the crop, that would certainly give us several decades of adaptation potential.
This is Aaron Davis. He's on a mission to save coffee in the face of climate change by drawing attention to less appreciated but more resilient beans. There's varieties like Stenophila, which hadn't been seen in the wild for about 70 years until its recent rediscovery in Sierra Leone. And then there's a species in Malaysia that's been grown and consumed this whole time. So we just landed here in Malaysia and we're on our way to a state called Johor in the southern part of the peninsula. You might not actually know it, but coffee is produced here in Malaysia, and one of the varieties that they produce is called Liberica. Liberica production barely makes a dent in the global coffee trade, but that wasn't always the case. In the late 1800s, Liberica suddenly found itself a darling of the coffee industry. The Arabica plant was plagued by fungal diseases, insect attacks, and soil exhaustion, leading to reports like this, sounding the alarm bells that coffee plantations were faced with partial, if not total extinction. So coffee growers, including those in Malaysia, turned to Liberica for its high resistance, and because it thrived in tropical climates. Liberica was planted and consumed around the world, but difficulties in processing the bean were problems for the industry. And people weren't crazy about the taste, which has been described as full-bodied, less delicate, with hints of jackfruit. By the early 1900s, the emergence of Brazil as an Arabica powerhouse and the discovery of Robusta made Liberica an afterthought in the coffee world. In Malaysia, most farmers moved away from its cultivation in favor of more profitable crops like rubber and oil palm.
Another day,
including the great-grandparents of Isham Salam.
Okay, let's go. Good morning, everyone.
A few years ago, Salam took up Liberica cultivation as a passion project alongside his career as an engineer. He's growing it on several hectares of land near his ancestral home, one coffee-bearing flower at a time.
You can smell the aroma. It's mesmerizing. Heavenly. Come on, give me a shot.
Some research suggests that Liberica plants can thrive in temperatures up to 4 degrees Celsius higher than Robusta and better withstand extreme weather.
It's nice to be here, right? Except for the humidity. Yeah. My number 1 Robusta, my number 2 Robusta. Okay.
Salam says it's holding up a lot better than his Arabica plants in southern Malaysia's year-round 28-degree weather.
It may not represent, but it gives you an idea. In a sorry state. Okay?
Yeah, they're not doing great.
No, they are not doing great.
A few dozen farmers grow Liberica on around 400 hectares of land in this part of the country, producing several tons of beans per year. Since 2021, the Malaysian government has set aside almost $500,000 for coffee research, and its research institute is developing new genetic varieties and helping local farmers with their production. It's also taking off in other parts of the world like the Philippines and India. In Uganda, where some Robusta farmers have switched to Liberica excelsa for climate reasons, several tons are being exported each year. But its success is going to come down to how well they can sell it to us, the Arabica-loving coffee drinkers of the world.
Kopinya bau dan menyengat bau.
Menyengat, itu hayat
yang
tu, menyengat.
Memang yang terbaik.
Ya,
Saya tak menafikan.
Contoh ini kira jenis yang premium lah kita buat. InsyaAllah ini kalau
Memang bau original.
dia sebenarnya sesuai untuk buat ni juga.
Memang. Tapi saya memandangkan pasal harga.
Ya.
Liberica's limited production means it's more expensive than Arabica and Robusta. Because of that, it's usually sold as a blend at old-school cafes known as kopitiam, where patrons wash down their morning satay and half-boiled eggs with affordable cups of brew.
Tapi saya jual lebih kurang 70, 1 kilo.
1 kilo.
Jadi maknanya
RM35. Rasa yang setengah kilo pun kalau kopi pun dah RM27.
It all comes down to the way it's produced. Not only do manual harvests drive up labor costs, but Liberica cherries yield less coffee due to their thicker skin. The cherries also vary widely in size, which requires machinery to sort them for an even roasting.
You see the difference in size, the big beans and the small beans, okay? It poses problems to the processors and the roasters. Yeah.
But producers like Salam think that higher prices aren't a bad thing. If it means local farmers get a premium for their coffee and an incentive to scale up their Liberica production.
Sebab saya, kalau diikutkan ni, kalau dengan harga yang ada sekarang ni, saya tebang. Sebab tak untungkan. Tak untung. Tapi minat. Kita ada kerja, kita ada gaji lah. Ada gaji sikit. Saya harap kopi ni satu hari nanti terbaik untuk minuman kita lah.
And this is where they're betting that Liberica would shine. High-end coffee shops like this one in Johor and around the world, where consumers are willing to pay for quality coffee.
How do you compare it to other coffees you've had?
I think the taste not heavy. Yes, I like it.
For me juga sama juga lah. I akan rasa if naik harga ke turun harga ke, I think it's okay kalau coffee tu sedap lah. Yang I rasa puas hati.
We're not really saying we want to replace Arabica and Robusta. Our intention is to supplement those species and to provide options for farmers that are no longer able to grow Arabica or Robusta.
I see that there is an opportunity for the revival of Malaysian grown coffee once again. It's all about consistency, right? Consistency of seedling, consistency of the timing of your plantation, consistency of your fertilizing, so that you produce consistent size. Precision in coffee is repeatability.
It's hard to ask for precision from nature, huh?
Yes, but we can work towards that. Precision from nature through TLC, tender loving care, and a bit of knowledge. Yeah. Look at that. Oh.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thanks for watching the video. This is the first one in our new series called Rerooted, which is about the future of food. And in every episode, we're traveling to a different place, looking at a different crop, and a different issue. So what do you want to know about this topic? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.